This is getting started with quality improvement for September. Thank you for being here. This is a Friday morning. I know this is not required. It's completely voluntary. So I do appreciate you taking the time, being interested in this, and joining us today. My name is Mary Beth. I'm a Quality Improvement Implementation Manager in the Office of Clinical Quality Management. I think I've been in contact with all of you before, so you know how to get in touch with me. But that is my email down there, marybeth.cox is how to email me. And we have such a small group. I think we can do introductions. So if y'all would like to introduce yourselves, we'll have a little bit more of a intimate gathering.
Hey, I'm Daphne Wren. I'm a registered nurse care consultant with the Office of Integrated Health here at the DHCS.
How long have you been at OIH, Daphne?
Since March.
March, okay. Yeah. Okay. Maybe Amy?
Hi, I'm Amy Britton, and I'm Policy and Compliance Manager with DBHDS, and I supervise the HCBS reviewers.
Perfect. And Nat?
I'm Nat Leonard. I'm a quality improvement specialist with the Office of Community Quality Improvement.
Yes. Nat's on our team, and Nat could probably teach this class. So, awesome. Well, let's get started here. This is scheduled for 2 hours. Because we have a small group, we may not need 2 hours. We'll see how it goes. And feel free to ask questions throughout. I did design it to be relatively interactive, so hopefully nobody will be falling asleep. And there is a spot for a break about halfway through if we want to take a break. So again, thank you for being here. I am recording this. This might be the last one I do this year, and I'm not sure if I'm going to keep doing it. I've had, kind of attendance kind of dwindle over time, so I might just have a recording available. There is an evaluation at the end. I'll share the link with you so you can do that. It's very short. It does help me. And I was scheduling this the third Friday of every quarter. I do have one more scheduled in October. So if you would have any colleagues you think might enjoy this, I do plan to offer that one. So our learning objectives today are to help you increase familiarity with quality improvement. You might all be familiar already, so we can kind of tailor the conversation to where you are. We're going to understand and be able to use the focus steps better and the model for improvement, and also go through an example together of both of those things, focus steps and the model for improvement. And then finish up by talking about how you can use this in your work if you're not already, or use it even more. So there are some handouts. I did not send them ahead of time. I will send them afterwards. We're going to look most closely at the QI job aid and the focus worksheet. Both of these are available on both our public-facing website and our intranet, and then I'll be sending out these other materials as well. All right, so we're going to start with a definition of quality. That's what we do. We start with definitions, and I'm going to, I guess I can keep my camera on for a little while. You can just see my blurry background. So it's always good to start with a definition so that we're on the same page. And this definition comes from the Oxford English Dictionary, who defines quality as a noun, the standard of something is measured against other things of a similar kind, the degree of excellence of something. So I think we're all used to hearing quality talked about in that way. a product having good quality, having a degree of excellence based on some kind of measurement or standard. There's a second definition here, quality as a distinctive attribute or characteristic possessed by someone or something, as in he shows strong leadership qualities, like having strong traits, having strong characteristics, being an indicator of good quality. So that's kind of where we're starting with the definition here. And we're going to now talk very briefly about the history of quality. I am going to turn my camera off because I'm not looking at the camera very often. So quality has always existed in some form or fashion. These particular time periods have directly influenced our understanding about quality, starting with medieval Europe. And actually, somebody sent me something the other day showing that quality, one of the first written communications among humans was related to the quality of grain, I think, which was even before medieval Europe. So I should add this into this presentation. It's pretty interesting. But in medieval Europe, we think about the creation of guilds, like metalworking guilds or, you know, construction guilds, and they established rules for the production of the goods that they were making, and they assessed quality at each step for what they were doing. I always think of Willy Wonka and the Lollipop Guild, so perhaps there was that as well. Then during the Industrial Revolution, which we're probably more familiar with, people began to build things on a larger scale at increased frequency. There were factories being developed, which also had kind of a growing and strong focus on the end product and, of course, quality. And then during the 20th century, there were significant events like World War II and also significant people who helped expand quality management principles from manufacturing, where it had primarily lived, into other sectors of work life. And today you can find it in all sectors: industry, education, healthcare, and government. So there we are. And it also has had a growing focus on customer service. So we kind of think about that as being person-centered, but what does the person at the center of the services or receiving the product think about the quality? Is it meeting their needs? So it's kind of a history of quality. All right, and you are probably all familiar with this, but DBHDS has established the Quality Improvement Committee as the highest committee, quality committee for the agency, and it has overall oversight of the quality management system. Actually, there are two quality improvement committees now. We have one for developmental disabilities and one for behavioral health. There are a number of subcommittees that report to the QIC. For the DDQIC, currently there are 11 subcommittees. They have internal and external members. And there are also, which is not pictured on this diagram, but there are also several collaborative committees that DBHDS staff participate in. One, for example, is the Quality Review Team, QRT, which I believe is in partnership with DMAS. So these are our main committees, but there are also partnership committees. So I always think it's helpful for people to kind of understand the structure. But that is not the focus for today. Today, we're going to be talking about how to do quality improvement in your everyday work. And I just have a few words of wisdom before we dive into it. Quality improvement is not a fad. You'll likely see it more and more. And interestingly, I started using this slide about 10 years ago, and it's only become more true. So I can attest to the fact that it is not a fad. The other messages here are that you can do this. You're likely already doing this. It may not be using this particular framework, but it's highly likely that you are working to improve things in your work all the time. When you're using this framework, it does help to start with one thing, start small, and start by measuring something. The example we're going to get into, might seem a little complicated, so you don't have to start that big or complicated. Just start with one thing and start small, but just start, right? The only way to do it is to do it. And so those are my words of wisdom. All right. So we've defined quality. And now we're going to get into some definition elements of quality improvement. And you guys are going to help me by filling in the blank. So you have to bear with me while I move some screens around here. All right, so I can see the chat. All right, so we're going to use the chat, or you can just unmute since there's only 3 of you. Number 1, so you're going to tell me what words you think are covered up by the numbers. Okay, we're going to do the first one. Quality improvement is an blank effort to achieve measurable improvements in quality. And blank effort. What do you think that one is? My chat.
I'll
What
say
do you think, Nat?
ongoing.
Ongoing. See, I told you guys he could teach this class. Okay, it's supposed to go. There we go. Yes, an ongoing effort. Gold star for Nat. Yeah, this is something you want to always have a project in the works, right? We're always doing quality improvement. Number 2, a way to blank efficiency, effectiveness, performance, accountability, and outcomes. This one's kind of a gimme. That's a clue. What do you think number 2 is? Amy's typing. She's preferring to type than unmute. Combine. Okay, that's a good guess. All right, it is a way to combine how you look at those things. And yes, it is improve. I know this one is like I used the word in the definition. You're probably not supposed to do that. But yes, so it's in a way to improve basically anything about your programs and the work that you do. Number 3, use of a blank, supported by strategies, methods, and tools. Use of a blank. I've already used the word when we were looking at the learning objectives. I can think of a few words that would go here, but what do you think? All right, sounds like I'm gonna have to give it to you. It's a model. Use of a model. That you could also say framework, right? So a model is basically a structure, some type of set strategies that you're going to use every time. And I'm already kind of giving you hints for number 4 and 5. A blank set of steps that work best if they become a blank part of your business operations. So, any guesses on this? Okay. Not loving the guessing game today. I'll just give it to you. Nat's guessing. Okay, I'll give you 4 then. Let's see if he guesses 5. A repeatable set of steps. Yep, that work best if they become a routine part of your business. So the steps that you use to do quality improvement about finances might be the same set of steps you use to improve your outcomes. And they work best if this is just a routine part of what you do. Like, this is what we do. This is how we do quality improvement. So those are some elements of quality improvement. Now, one common area of confusion, let me close my window. Hear the dogs barking. I only have one dog. It's the neighbor's dogs. One common area of confusion is quality assurance compared to quality improvement. And I really like this resource. You guys are going to get these slides, and you can access this resource, a guidebook to embracing quality in public health. But I like this side by side because it does give a good comparison of the two. And basically, I think the bottom line probably should be the top line. Quality assurance asks, do we provide good services? Okay. It's looking at basically, are we doing what we're supposed to be doing? What do we pass our inspections? Are we compliant with standard? Are the staff doing what they're supposed to be doing? It's about meeting criteria or requirements, which is very important, right? And this is an important part of both behavioral health and the DD service system. We have a lot of requirements and standards that we have to meet. The quality improvement asks, how can we do better? How can we provide better services? How can we have better outcomes? So this asks us to raise our quality, do better than just meeting the standard. And this would involve us being proactive, improving our processes, continuously looking at what we need to do better, and to a degree, quality assurance also, can benefit from teamwork, but quality improvement definitely does work best if you have a team. So any questions about this or observations? When we work with our providers, I know that this is a common area of confusion. When they have to do a QI plan, they say that in their QI plan, they're going to meet the standard, which they might have to improve what they're doing in order to meet the standard, but simply meeting the standard is not quality improvement. Okay, important distinction. All right, so we're gonna play another game. Let's see if you guys are get more into my games. And you'll have to pardon, it sounds like I'm having to catch my breath. I'm recovering from COVID. I am at home. I'm trying to catch my breath on some of the slides. I haven't talked for 2 hours in a while. So giving you the answers. So this is called, let's play, is it QI or QA? So we've reviewed the difference between the two, and you guys are gonna tell me for each scenario if it's QI or QA. Okay, number 1. The staff member in charge of risk management completes all the required training and attestation. Is this QA or QI? I see Amy is typing. All right, Amy says QA. All right, why is it QA? Amy can answer, anybody can answer. Yes, Nate, exactly. Because you're meeting the standard, right? That is required, completing required training, And there's no indication we're doing that as an improvement project. Number 2, in a day support program, 10 individuals had a hospital stay or ER visit because of a fall last year. You set a goal to reduce the number of falls to 5 or fewer by the end of next year. Is this QI or QA? Amy says QI. Good job. It is QI because basically, it's probably what you would also say. You're setting a goal, right? You're making clear efforts to improve this outcome. So here's a question. What would a QA aspect of falls look like? What would any quality assurance? It's a little bit of a level up question. What would QA related to falls look like? Wanting to jump my slides for me. Right. Good job, Nat. So completing a falls risk assessments annually is an element of doing QA for falls, right? That is a licensing requirement, I think. So doing what you're supposed to do, that's QA. All right. I think I have one more. You develop a tracking spreadsheet to help make sure that staff complete their required training. Is this QI or QA? This one's a little more tricky. Nobody, no guesses? Okay, could be either one, honestly. On its face, this is QA, right? You are tracking something that people are being required to do. Okay, it's a tracking tool for quality assurance, but it could be quality improvement if it was part of a QI effort. For example, if you had a goal for staff to improve how they were completing their training, if more people were supposed to be doing it within a certain amount of time, for example, this could be a tracking spreadsheet for improvement purposes. So this would really come down to if you have a goal, if you have some improvement strategies in place. All right, any questions about those examples? Okay, hopefully people are liking the examples. I try to do trainings where I don't just talk at you, but where we talk together about some things. So here are just to kind of wrap up the QA QI distinctions. Here are some other examples, right? QA would ask, are we meeting licensing regulations? QI would ask, how can we improve toward meeting licensing regulations? If we're achieving performance at 86% or 90%, improvement would ask us to see how we could do better than that, right? And we've talked about staff training. All right, so now we're going to get into our worksheets and our model. Any questions so far? We've covered definitions and QI elements and QI versus QA. Nope. All right. Deep breaths. Okay. So we're going to talk about focus and the model for improvement. Let me find my notes here. Okay, so who has heard of the model for improvement? You can do a thumbs up or raise your hand. Nat, yes? Okay, Daphne and Amy? Amy, yes? Okay, awesome. So the model for improvement is a quality improvement framework. And it is the one that DBHDS has adopted for doing our QI projects through our quality management system. There's a lot of information online about it. the Institute for Healthcare Improvement has online training available, some nice videos for free, ihi.org. And I can also send you their toolkit, which is helpful. The kind of hallmark of the Model for Improvement is the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. A lot of people have heard of that, but that is not the only part of the model. So that's the famous part, but there are other parts of the Model for Improvement, and we'll look more at those, namely creating an aim, a measure, and a change. But over the years, I have found that it's also important to include the focus steps. Now, you don't have to necessarily use focus, but it is important to do some preparatory work in order to prepare for doing the Model for Improvement. So these are like preliminary steps that help you prepare, okay? By doing the focus steps, make sure that it helps make sure that your project is well thought out and that you're set up for success. So I'm going to show you how to find these on our website. Now, they are on our intranet and our external website. So I'm going to show you, I'll show you both. If you go to our intranet, you need to find our office, which is Clinical Quality Management. And you scroll down, we have our little boxes here. You're going to go to Resources and Training. And then you're going to, you'll know where to go because of the big Plan, Do, Study, Act picture. And there's me when I had long hair. And you're going to go down, you're going to find, you're going to see a lot of resources. And let's see, let's find, let's see, where are they? Oh, here, okay. So it's under Quality Improvement Initiatives. And there's a lot of different things here, but the focus worksheet is here. And the PDSA, okay, we call it a Quality Improvement Job Aid featuring Plan, Do, Study, Act worksheet. I'm going to open those in separate tabs. If you're on the external facing website, you also have to find our office again. It's probably easier this way. And you scroll all the way to the bottom. We have a QI library. And under the library, we have the QI job aid right here and the focus worksheet. Okay. And there's some other things here as well that you can use. You can use any of this, of course. Okay. So let me move this. And let's start by looking at the focus worksheet. So again, the focus steps help you get ready for doing the Model for Improvement. It's like an acronym, right? FOCUS, each one stands for something. F stands for find a problem or process to improve. Of course, this is step one. That's kind of like, I call it Captain Obvious, right? You need, if you're going to do an improvement project, you need something to improve. But sometimes there can be more that goes into it. Zoom in a little. And there's some questions here to help you think through identifying your problem, right? You might have a few, you might have different ones that you're considering. So it asks you like, what does your data show? How long has it been a problem? How do you know it's a problem? What if you don't have data, but you think it's a problem? How can you get data? Okay. And then once you have your problem, you're going to organize a team familiar with the problem. And here's some questions you'll want to ask about the team. What's their role, their purpose? Who should be on your team? How can you bring in stakeholder voices? How are you going to have effective team meetings? My opinion is the most important thing on this sheet is the team. Doing a QI project with a team just makes it so much better. And then you're going to want to clarify your current knowledge of the problem. So now that you have your team, you have your problem, you want to say, what is really going on here? What is the problem? What do we know about how it works now? What's been done to solve this problem? Did it work? Why or why not? How do you know? Right? So you're doing some homework, and then you're going to understand the reasons for the problem. Again, this is probably the most famous step of all of these because you're going to want to do your root cause analysis here to say, why is this happening? Why? Maybe do a 5 whys, right? We'll look at root cause analysis in a minute and more in depth, but think about what technique is there a process involved? Is there a part of the process that's falling apart? So you really want to understand why your problem is happening. And then once you've done all of this work, you're going to select your improvement strategy. What change are you going to try to improve this problem? Okay. Any questions about focus steps or even comments? I'm here for the comments too. Like, oh, this is cool. I like this. I've never seen this before, or I think this would be helpful. Like, I'm open to anything. That's typing. I'm going to switch over to our evidence-based solutions. Yes, let's look at here. Okay. So Nat is asking, can we speak to evidence-based solutions? So in the selecting the improvement strategy part, there's a question here that says, have you used tools like brainstorming and identifying evidence-based solutions? So I actually have a whole list of ways you could go about identifying your improvement strategy. Identifying evidence-based solutions basically means drawing from research based sources to look at what has worked, right? Whatever your problem is, what does the evidence say? What does the research say about what has been done to address this problem and how to do it? Okay. There won't always be evidence-based solutions. I will say that it depends on what your problem is. But yes, you should certainly look at evidence-based solutions if you can. So that would be going to the research, going to peer-reviewed journal articles, going to those meta-analyses, even going to like organizations that's their specialty and maybe they've put together toolkits on how to address the problem that's based on evidence. So it might be primary and secondary evidence sources. Does that help, Nat? Is that what you meant? Okay, cool. Yes. That is very important. And hopefully the evidence will speak to your problem. The thing is, it may not, depending on, or it may just be, you may have some clues as to what to do. Something I've observed over the several years of doing QII, quality improvement initiatives in the DD world is sometimes there is a body of evidence about something, but it's not specific to maybe the developmentally disabled population. So then you kind of look to the evidence and maybe you also look to professional organizations and agencies. I could keep talking about this, but yeah, you're going to have to use your team in deciding yeah, do we have enough evidence and what should we do? Okay, so let's look now at our PDSA worksheet. So these are the two tools that we're really going to focus on today. To use the word focus. This is a one-page worksheet back and front that was really designed for anybody in the agency or even outside of the agency to be able to pick up and use to do a quality improvement project. So the first page is really a guide, a quick guide to the key elements of focus and Plan, Do, Study, Act. So at the top here, it has just, what we just looked at. It's not a worksheet though, so that's the benefit of the other one. You can write in it. These are just the same steps and questions. But then down here we have the model for improvement. So the model for improvement really starts with 3 questions. The first question being, what are you trying to accomplish? The answer to that question is going to be having a SMART objective or aim, right? Those are the same things, aim or objective. And we'll talk more about SMART goals in a little bit. So you're going to have your SMART objective. And you're going to have a measure, which answers the question, how will you know a change is an improvement? Okay. You will need to be able to measure whatever you're trying to improve. So you're going to define that measure and identify your change. And this change is really connecting this S from the focus to your Plan, Do, Study, Act. Okay, what are you changing? And then you enter into your Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. And really, it's just what it says it is. It's kind of self-explanatory to a degree, but you're going to use the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle to test this change that you're making, okay? So you're going to say, okay, we're going to make this change, and then here's how we're going to do it. And you're going to document those steps, kind of like a work plan, right? So let's just imagine that, I want to, eat more fruits and vegetables. That's the change I want to make. Maybe I have an overall goal to, lower my cholesterol or improve my heart health. And maybe I've been told that, yeah, my cholesterol is too high. So maybe my measure is going to be my cholesterol. Maybe every year or every 6 months, I'm going to get that checked. I'm just thinking out loud, you guys. It's just coming off the top of my head. And the change we want to make is more fruits and vegetables. That's a really sweeping statement. And actually, in order to eat more fruits and vegetables, it takes some planning to do that, right? So what's your plan going to be? Maybe next time I go to the grocery store, I'm going to pick out one fruit and one vegetable that I think that I'll like to eat next week, and figure out a recipe, how to prepare that. So you start to see the details of what my plan might be, right? And then I'm actually going to do my plan, right? We do the do, not Mountain Dew. We do the do in the plan. And you're going to carry it out on a small scale. We talk about the rule of 1, right? Can you try it for 1 day? Can you try it for 1 week? And see how it goes. And you're going to learn, oh gosh, I bought I bought mangoes. Maybe I thought I would really like mangoes as my fruit, but gosh, those things, they were too, slimy for me. So you're going to study the change that you made as part of your change, right? Did this thing work the way I thought it would work? I'm going to document how it went. I'm going to collect my data. And then in your act part, you're going to look at, here's everything we did. I'm going to decide what to do, right? I went through a week of trying to eat more fruits and vegetables. Maybe I still have maybe I now have rotten vegetables in my refrigerator because I just let them sit there and they went bad. And that's how I'm going to study whether this worked or not. And I'm going to think about, am I going to adapt this change? Like maybe I just bought the wrong fruit or vegetable, so I'm going to modify it. Maybe I'm going to adopt it. Maybe I decide I love mangoes and cucumbers, and those are my new go-to snacks. Or maybe I'm just going to abandon this. Maybe maybe eating fruits and vegetables is not the way that I can improve my cholesterol. I guess I'll have to exercise more, right? So abandoning is would be, this didn't work. I'm gonna try something completely different. So that's really a PDSA in brief, okay? This worksheet here on the second page is helping you document all of that, right? Everything we just talked about, this is a place to write it all down. And I'm a big proponent of using a worksheet because it keeps you accountable, keeps you on track, especially if you're using a team. It keeps the team all on the same page, right? You get a projector or you put this up on the wall, on the screen. Everybody can see it. Everybody can track. How are we doing on our plan? How are we doing on our do? What's our data telling us? So this is really your go-to tool for that. Okay, that's the PDSA worksheet and the steps. Whew, it's a lot of talking. Any questions about these tools, about model for improvement? No? None? Okay. All right. So we're going to go through an example together and have some discussion along the way. Okay, Daphne is typing. Let's see what she has to say. Okay. While Daphne is typing, I'm going to introduce you to our team. So we are now part of this team. I'm calling them Team TCB, and this is my little fun moment of my mom always loved Elvis Presley, and I have a connection to him because I was born the same week that he died. So I've heard about Elvis my entire life. Um, does anybody know what TCB meant in Elvis world? TCB, it was one of his like mottos or sayings. No Elvis fans here. No? Really? Okay, I need to add a slide about this. He said taking care of business. Taking care of business. So Elvis, okay, so we have Team TCB here. We're gonna take care of business. Daphne says she thinks she knew that. Yeah, well, he had it like on patches and in his house and yeah, TCB. Okay. All right. So we're going to start off with some easy questions. You guys know this. Um, we're going to find an opportunity to improve for Team TCB. So if we're kind of helping Team TCB, we're kind of coaching them, how would we find out what is important to them, what they want to improve or what they need to improve? Like I said, we're starting off easy here. Yep, Amy, there you go. We're going to ask them, right? Um, Oh, I thought I had a slide. I thought I had it uncovered. Wait a minute, where is it? Hold on. Thought I had something under my bubble. Nope, I guess not. Okay. Yes, absolutely. We're going to ask them what's important to you. You know, what do you think needs to be improved? Yeah. What seems to be a problem here? Oh, here's my questions. What seems to be a problem? What do we need to improve? Right. Um, this will likely be an easy conversation to have. People tend to know what's going wrong, what's they're not happy with, right? And Team TCB tells us that these are the things that they think are problems. So falls and trips, staff training, staff retention, medication errors, and employment outcomes. Yeah, Daphne also says, yeah, ask them. Yeah, ask them. Um, sometimes we're told, though, right? Sometimes we're told what we need to improve. So the rest of these still hold true. But yeah, sometimes we ask and sometimes we're told. And that's the reality of things sometimes. So the next question is, so how could we find out which one to focus on? Okay, so I talked about the rule of one, picking one thing. How could we find out what to focus on? Okay, Daphne suggests a survey. Yes, we could do that, right? A pick chart. Yeah, Nat, I like what you're thinking here. I don't know if I have pick charts in this presentation actually. Um, okay. So yes, those are certainly some options. Maybe with a survey, we could ask people to prioritize, like rank them, right? So we could put it kind of like a team-based decision. We could do a pick chart, which looks at each of your issues. We can pull up pick charts later. I don't think I have it here, but if people want to look at pick charts, we can. A pick chart stands for, oh, I can't remember what the P stands for. Okay, we'll look at pick charts later. It's basically a way to prioritize where to start based on how easy something is and the impact that you would have. Okay, in this case, my answer was, let's look at the data, right? So let's start by looking at what data do we have? What is it telling us? Is it telling us that one of these things is more of a problem than other things? Okay, so here's the data. So we've probably discerned that Team TCB works at a residential facility. This is more in the developmental disabilities arena. You don't necessarily need to work in DD, though, to kind of understand this example. So we're going to start with our falls and trips data and our staff training and retention data. Okay, so this is data that that I made up. This is fake data, not even from a real provider, but could be. It could be. I tried to make it somewhat realistic. All right. Sorry. I'm just getting my breath. Okay. So falls and trips. So falls and trips data, we have level 1 falls and trips, which are the not reportable. And we have level 2 falls and trips, which are the yellow bar, which of course those are the reportable serious incidents. Oh, thank you, Daphne. I might need a break. I think I actually have a break built in a few slides. So yeah, this is just how I am, how I am this week. So our data here are, well, you guys can interpret it as well. You can see the different houses that and how they are with the level 1s and 2s falls and trips, you can see that for this 6-month period, 36% of individuals had a level 1 fall, and 14% had a level 2 fall, which is a serious incident. Okay. Okay, so let's look at staff training. And I'm going to actually encourage you guys to not focus too much on the numbers. I think I had a different version of this where I'd fix the numbers because these are very low. But just look at the percentages. I think the numbers are very low, but that happens, right? Some of our providers are very small, and these might be realistic numbers for them. So looking at our staff training, so this is new employees that complete their orientation training within 15 days. So we can see we had 75%, 50%, 100%, and to date we had 78% complete their training in that first 15 days. Also, we can look at staff retention. So this is the percent of employees retained for 6 months. So this looks like year to date, about half of our new employees are still employed. Okay. And now let's look at medication errors. We have some reportable medication errors and non-reportable medication errors. So you can see those numbers there. And also employment outcomes. So this is for people receiving services who have an employment outcome in their ISP. I do know the goal for this is 50%, and this is, we have 20%, 30%, and now 35%. So it kind of looks like it's going up. Okay, so let's just pause here and see what you guys think about the data. See what do you think it's telling us? Does anything stand out to you? Like if you had to vote on which one of these to start with right now, what would you vote on? Or is it easy? I mean, is that kind of hard to do? Like, gosh, it'd be hard to vote or okay. So Nat says that falls appears to be increasing at an alarming rate. Others appear to be trending in the right direction. Okay. So Nat, you might be thinking that this is over time here, but this is actually just for a 6-month period and it's by house. But I think you're onto something here. You're curious about falls. You're curious why, right? Why are there so many more in house 3, right? So we're kind of alarmed by that. And maybe, curious overall about these falls and trips. Okay. Yep, read the chart wrong. Yes, okay, cool. Yes, falls and trips, always a high interest area. Okay, so let's just put a pin in that and talk about in your work. So what we just did for team TCB, how would you do that in your work? So, you may not be working in a residential facility. So how would you find an opportunity to improve in your work? You could just throw some ideas out there. Okay. Well, perhaps you're thinking about it. Here are some things that you could do. Let's see, Daphne is typing. right? We talked about asking your team, what should we work on? Why should we work on that? What seems to be a problem? And then here we're getting a little deeper. Do we have data about that problem, right? If not, how can we get that data, right? These are those questions from the focus worksheet. And look at your metrics. Yeah. Okay, Daphne, there you go. Speaking of metrics, you said take data on training topics. Yeah, exactly. So what data do you have? Is there something you could compare and contrast it? Do you have trend data over time? And you could use a tool. So Nat mentioned the pick chart. I was going to show you guys a risk matrix. So we're going to come back to our 5 areas here and think about where they would fall on a risk matrix. So has anybody used a risk matrix before? Nat, yes. Yeah. Do you use these with providers in ECTA?
Yeah, I go over a couple of different ways to use it, but probably not like this. This is an interesting approach. I like where this is going, Mary Beth.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely different ways you can use a risk matrix. It is kind of similar to a pick chart, right? So a risk matrix is a tool that you can use to help prioritize and better understand your risks, right? And basically that is what we have identified here. We've identified 5 risks that people are concerned about, right? People may not use that language, right? We didn't say, what are the 5 leading risks? We just said, what are you worried about, right? They're risks. These are risks. So putting them on a risk matrix. So this risk matrix asks you to basically graph, right? We're going back to like 6th grade, 7th grade. We're graphing things on an X and Y axis here. On the y-axis, it's asking you to rate the likelihood of that thing happening, all the way from rarely happening to almost certain to happen. And then it asks you to graph it on the x-axis as to the consequence. So if this thing happened, what is the consequence? Is it insignificant, like, no big deal, or all the way up to severe consequence? And this is an exercise you could do with your team, right? You would have your discussions about where it would fall on your risk matrix. Okay, so we're going to imagine here that this team, TCB, got together and talked about these risks and put them on the matrix. And they know their people. They know the individuals receiving services. Hopefully for all of those falls, they will have done their their root cause analysis, right? So the licensing requirement. They know what caused the falls. They know the likelihood of it happening. They know the nature of their medication errors, right? That is the value of that team. They know these things. So imagine they had that conversation, and this is how they mapped their issues on the matrix. So Nat said he was concerned about falls and trips. They said the likelihood of that happening was high, kind of in the mid-range high. Between possible and likely, right, that people were going to fall, and that the consequence, they called it moderate, right? So perhaps those falls didn't result in fractures or hospitalizations. Maybe, some of them maybe didn't actually have injuries. So we don't know, right? But this team knows. So they all in all, this is how they ranked everything. And they had actually staff retention in the highest number. And if you recall, they had half of their new hires had quit already halfway through the year. And the conversation probably talked about how, in order to provide good services, you need staff, right? You need the people there to be able to help provide supports and all of those things. And the risk to everybody goes up if you don't have your staff, right? So they that's what they ranked the highest. I think. Okay, we're gonna go through C. Okay. Any questions here? Is this a cool, like, do you like the matrix? Do you think this is helpful? What do you think, Nat, using it this way? Okay. All right. Anybody need a break? We are about halfway through. Does anybody need to take a break? I think I've caught my breath again. So annoying. Okay, I don't see any hands. I don't see anything in the chat about a break. All right, let's keep going. Move this over here. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to organize our team. Daphne says, yeah, the risk matrix is easy to see. Yeah, that's a great point, actually. It's very visual. And I would say if you have visual learners, which I think all of us have some element, different ways that we learn, of course. But if you have visual learners, they're really going to like that. And you need to make it visual. So if you're the person leading the risk matrix thing, use the matrix, use the colorful thing, have some sticky notes, put it up on the wall. That really engages people. All right, so we're going to organize our team. We already have Team TCB, and now we have our topic. So we are going to help Team TCB with staff retention, right? We want to keep those new people. One thing I will say here is if you're now focusing on staff retention, you want to make sure to have voices there that can speak to staff retention. So if you didn't already have those people, right? If all the staff retention are DSPs and you don't have DSPs on your team, you need to get one, right? So you're going to think about how to engage the people most affected by the problem on your team. Clarifying the current knowledge of the problem. So, how could we better understand our staff retention problem? Right? All we know at this point is half of our people are leaving. That's all we know. What else might we want to know? So here's what we might want to know. What can you tell us about staff retention at your agency? What have you done to try to improve staff retention? Did it work? Why or why not? Did it not work? Okay. We already have our baseline data. What else might we want to know about staff retention? Right? All we know is they're leaving. All right, Amy is typing. I know I'm asked people to like do this brain work on a Friday morning. Yeah, great job. Okay. Yeah, is it the pay, right? So now we're curious. Why are people leaving? What are we paying people, right? What are their hours? Maybe we also want to know, how long has this been a problem? We only looked at this past year. How does it look like before that? How long do people stay in their role? What positions are impacted the most? Who are these people? Yeah, Daphne, great question. What changed? What changed? If it used to be great and now it sucks, what changed? Right? So if these are questions we want to answer, how could we get this information? So let's say this is our we looked back, right? All we had was this data point here, the 50%, but we decided to look back, okay? Just like Daphne said, what changed? My goodness. So this is percent of staff leaving, okay? So 2018, 2019, we were around 20%, but in 2020 and since then, it's been 60, 50, 40, 40, 50, higher. Okay, and we all know what changed in 2020. I did design this on purpose to like have that point there and think, oh, maybe it was COVID, maybe something else changed at that time, right? So now we do shift into those why questions. What's going on? What are the reasons here? We're going to do our root cause analysis. And there are many root cause analysis tools. One thing I want to show you is if you want to learn more about root cause analysis, I have, if you go, this is on our intranet, but you see, I have a whole video series on our YouTube channel about root cause analysis. So I have different sections here. There's one about setting the stage. There's one introduction to QI, kind of like today's session. And then there's a 5-part series about root cause analysis. So if you want to go deeper, that is one place you can go. Okay. All right. So root cause analysis tools include brainstorming, 5 whys, fishbone diagram, a check sheet, interviews, surveys, focus groups, process maps. These are all things you can use to understand what is happening. Why is this happening? Okay. I've put in bold key informant interviews and surveys because Team TCB has chosen to use those for their root cause analysis. Okay. But if we have time at the end and people want to look at any of these other ones, we can do that, or I can send you information. So if you want to put in the chat, like, hey, I want to learn more about, fishbone diagrams or something, put that in the chat and I'll make sure that you get it. Interestingly enough, I don't have a video about how to do interviews and surveys, but it is on my list of things to create. So just for time's sake, I'm going to skip over that discussion question and look at our interviews. So say Team TCB, they're rolling up their sleeves. They're going to do interviews with people who have left the agency. Hopefully they would have done it at the time that they left. We're just going to assume that they did. And maybe they just put that in a drawer. So we're going to dig it back up and look at these interviews. Maybe those had questions like, what did you like about your job? What did you dislike? What challenges did you experience? What could we have done better to help you with those challenges? What made you look for another job? What is better about your new job? Now, Mary Beth made those questions up. I don't know if they're the right questions, but we're going to go with it for this example. And let's assume that, okay, so let's assume that these are our sample results, right? So we would have gotten qualitative data back on surveys or interviews and maybe some categories, but What we learned from our surveys is that staff did not feel appreciated. And here's some comments from our interviews. Nobody told me thank you. People did not even seem to remember my name. Ooh, ouch. Ooh, that one stings, doesn't it? Staff reported not having work-life balance. Here's a quote. I did not realize I would be working at night. I do not have childcare after 5 p.m. And last, staff felt unprepared for challenges that they faced. Here's a quote. One of the individuals in the home hit me. I did not know how to deal with that. Okay, so again, these are things Mary Beth made up, okay? And I pointed to the work-life balance just as an example. Okay, no problem, Daphne. Just as an example, you could take it further, right? You could do a 5 whys exercise. So people often, like 5 whys is very popular. So here we did one root cause analysis and we have some themes that we could work with. Maybe we're going to take it further and look more closely at people not having work-life balance. So we could do a 5 whys about that, right? And a 5 whys, you keep asking why until you get to what you feel like is a root cause. And in this 5 whys, people said they don't feel like they have work-life balance because they're asked to work overtime and are not prepared. This is because the organization is short-staffed and does not have routine evening staff. That is a hard position to recruit because most people don't want to work evenings. Okay, so that is an example of a 5 whys. Just to show you guys some other root cause analysis tools, this is a why tree. And basically, you take all of the direct causes of your problem and keep going with your whys. This is usually a more realistic 5 whys exercise because typically problems are complex and they don't have a single reason why. Right? There's usually a lot of reasons why. And here is a fishbone diagram, which is another root cause analysis tool. You'd put the problem at the head of the fish and then go through identifying the causes related to certain categories. All right, so now we are at selecting our improvement strategy. So this is where we ask the question, what change can we try to improve this problem? Is there one cause we can attack first? So here are the 3 areas we've identified that people are having trouble with. They don't feel appreciated, they don't have work-life balance, and they're not prepared for challenges. So this is our last step in the focus area. And Team TCB, they got together, they decided we're going to first work on appreciation. And this again goes back to that idea of picking one. Picking one. There might be, a better order of things here. Not quite sure, but people want to feel appreciated. So Nat, I saw you typing. Did you have a question or a comment here?
No, I was just going to chime in and I was going to kind of predict where they might pick, but yeah, that's
Oh,
it.
okay. No, go ahead. What would you think they would pick here?
Yeah, I was going right along with feeling appreciated. It just seems like they might have a little more the what's the word? Influence in that area than the other two. Um,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's sort of like the low-hanging fruit in a way.
Yep, exactly. Yep, that's why I kind of imagined that they would pick that first. Um, and yeah, that's not to say they couldn't also work on the other things. but we'll talk about that as well. So they're going to do a project on staff appreciation. Okay, so this is where I had the break built in. All right, so we've gone through all the focus steps, and we're going to do the model for improvement. So hopefully at this point, you'll kind of see the value of the focus steps, right? Because we've learned a lot already. We've gone through a lot, we've learned a lot, and I think TCB would feel ready to tackle this problem with all of the work that they've done. Okay, so now we're going to enter into doing the model for improvement. And we need to flesh out our change a little more, but also start with our goal and our measure and also our change. Okay, so we're entering into the model at the beginning. What are we trying to accomplish here? Okay, so this is when it starts to get a little more technical, right? And we want to set a SMART objective. One of our favorite things is to set a SMART objective. So I think everybody here probably knows what SMART objectives are, right? SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, right? We want to have a clear understanding of what we're trying to achieve. It needs to be something that is measurable. It needs to be something realistic that you can do and you feel like you have a possibility of success. It has to be relevant, right? Related to your services, related to your purpose, and time bound, right? We want to know when to expect that this would happen. All right, so let's do a SMART aim for Team TCB. I am a big fan of fill in the blank statements when we can have them. So our SMART fill in the blank statement here is by blank date, we want to improve blank issue from our baseline data blank to our goal data blank. So, okay, I didn't want to cheat and show it to you, but we'll cheat for the sake of time here. I think we're running a little slow. Let's see what you guys think about my aim statement, okay? By December 2025, Team TCB wants to improve staff retention from 50% to 80%. Okay, I've just filled in my fill in the blanks. What do you think about it? What grade would you give me? A plus? A B plus? Is there any way you would want to enhance it or change it? And Nat is typing. Okay, Amy says it looks good. Thank you, Amy. Okay. Okay, hopefully Nat's message will come through in a minute. I never know about those three dots, what's happening. Yeah, some people when we do this, they're like, yep, it looks good, right? It's simple, it's clear, it's straightforward. Yeah, okay, exactly. And some people, just like Nat, they're like, okay, what do you mean by staff retention? How are we defining that, right? So that's a great add-on. That is, you could certainly add on here's how we're going to define that. That could also come in your measure, right? So this is our aim. We're also going to do our measure. And the measure answers, how will you know it's an improvement? And then we're going to make our change statement. What change will you make? And our prediction. All right. So there's a lot of words on here. We're going to go a little at a time. We have our aim at the top, right? Which is what I've already shared. We have our measure. Okay, so I think this will answer what Nat is asking for. We will measure the percent of staff retained over a 6-month period and compare it to the baseline. We have our numerator and our denominator defined. We want the number of staff still employed at the end of 6 months over the all pre-existing staff plus newly hired staff at the beginning of 6 months. So we're talking about not only retaining new people, but everybody. We will look at the data each month at the quality meeting. And I kind of imagine this as a rolling measure. So every 6 months, we would look at 6 months ago, are those people still here? Okay. Is that the best way to measure it? I don't know, but that is what Team TCB is going to do. Our change. Okay, so Team TCB says they will implement a staff recognition program. This will consist of, one, asking staff how they like to be recognized, right? People are different, right? Some people like certificates. Some people just want a thank you from their supervisor. And number 2, planning to recognize all staff per their preference twice a month. Hopefully this recognition will be authentic and not forced. Okay, so this is their program. They're going to have to teach people this and roll it out. And their prediction is that supervisors and staff will observe that people are giving and getting recognition more. Okay, I tried to design this as a pretty simple change, but also kind of related to I mean, I didn't get into it in this presentation, but I did look up like effective staff recognition program strategies. So you'll want to do your homework, design something that's effective, right? So this is our first change. Any comments about this? Personally, like I think DBHDS, it looks like they've been doing something like this, right? We have Thankful Thursdays, we have the recognition get-togethers where people get their awards, right? So everybody knows and understands that staff recognition is important. So, so now we have our change, right? We have our aim, measure, change, and now we want to plan how we're going to do this. Okay, so again, this is exactly from that worksheet, right? How are we going to do this staff recognition program? And again, this is going to look like a lot of words. But the take-home message is you need a plan for how you're going to test this program, right? I'm going to kind of go through this quickly, but this outlines the tasks that are going to have to happen. We're going to identify best practices in staff recognition. Human resources is going to do that. We give them a time frame. Okay, and I put this together last year, so the dates are kind of in the past. But we're going to know we were successful if we have identified those best practices and shared it with leadership. We're going to design our program. We're going to encourage participation every week. We're going to do this for 12 weeks and see how it goes. We're going to remind everybody with weekly encouragement. Maybe we're going to email them some ideas. And we're going to ask for feedback every week and assess our impact and share the results. Okay, so we're giving ourselves 3 months to get this up and going and to evaluate it. All right, so we're going to test our prediction. Okay, so again, something simple. This is another quality improvement tool, a checklist. We want to test whether or not staff report feeling positive about being recognized more often. Right? There's no way to know this unless we somehow collect data about it. And this is what I like to call our second measurement, right? We have our overall goal of improving retention, but that's a really long period of time. We won't know that for 6 months, right? But we want to know in the short term if we're being successful, right? That way we can course correct if we need to. So we're going to do a short-term measure of success using a checklist. So say we have 10 staff, and every week we ask them, did you see somebody or did you get recognized? And how'd you feel about it? Did you feel good about this? Was it a positive experience? So our little checklist tells us that week 1, 70% observed recognition happening, and 70% felt good about this. They're like, oh yeah, I really like this recognition thing. I like the thank you card that I got. I like the donuts that were brought in. Now, you can see we did this for 4 weeks as our first kind of period of change. What do we see over those 4 weeks? Do you see any trends here? Okay, well, the trend is that it's going down, right? Fewer people are observing recognition, fewer people are saying that it's a positive thing. So we're going to look. So we did our plan for 1 month, and we're going to, at our quality meeting, talk about what happened. So after 1 month of implementation, feedback was solicited at each meeting and recorded. Great job. We did the checklist. Pat on the back. Between 50 and 70% observed or received recognition. 50% felt positive about it. Positive feelings seem to decrease over time. So when we act on this is our first cycle. We're going to act on this and say, all right, this isn't quite what we wanted to see happen. We're going to adapt this and do something to make sure we maintain this at the same level over time, because it's kind of already dropping off, right? So say we did another promotion of this, gave people more tools, and did it for another 4 weeks. So this time we have a lot more people observing and feeling positive about our change. So again, this is kind of right, taking a look at it as we're doing it. All right, so now we're going to check in with our longer term measure of success. So at baseline, if you remember, we had about 50% of our staff retained. And now when we look at our QII period, we've done this for 6 months. We have 65% of people who have been retained. So here's a question from you guys, for you guys. Is this improvement? Yes. Nat says yes. Modest, question mark. Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely improvement, right? Higher percentage. That's what we wanted to see. Have we achieved our aim? No, we have not, right? And honestly, I'm not sure I would have expected us to achieve our aim on this one change, because there's a lot, as we discovered in the root cause analysis, there's a lot of reasons people leave their job, right? So maybe it's not recognition for some people. Other people need more. So yes, I would say that is an improvement, but our aim, we have not achieved our aim. Okay, so here's closing out our second PDSA, right? We implemented it, we got our feedback, our retention increased to 70% during this period. We're going to adopt this change, right? We've been doing our best. We've been recognizing people. We are going to continue this staff recognition program, but we're also going to identify another strategy to further improve retention. Okay, so that's what this looks like, right? If we're going back to the definition of quality improvement, this is continuous. It's continuous. So big picture here, our aim was to improve staff retention. We went through at least two plan, do, study, act cycles to develop and maintain a staff recognition program. Okay, I'm going to pause there and just ask you guys to reflect on that. Like, is that kind of what you expected to see with a PDSA cycle or a QI project? What did you think of this? And Nat, I'd be curious, like you work a lot with providers. So, do providers do this? You know, how would you see them being able to do something like this, for example? Oh, Daphne is back now. Welcome back, Daphne. We've gone through a PDSA cycle and staff retention. Go ahead, Nat.
I think to answer your question, the providers that I work with
Mhm.
generally don't. They're not quite there yet. And maybe that's part of why we're with them. But they, in fact, I'm not even sure I'd go so far as to say that many of the providers that I work with so far have very limited kind of baseline data, and they're not quite even sure where to be collecting data and looking at that. So they might broadly identify things like staff turnover as an issue, but they might not even have the data to kind of reflect on that and see if there's changes, just anecdotal changes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Yeah, those are the things you guys help them with, like identifying data and maybe saying, okay, what data do you have about staff turnover?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, very cool. You're doing them a very, very good service. Um, yeah, so what about PDSA? I mean, have y'all gone through a PDSA before? Is this example kind of similar? Is it helpful to see it this way?
It is for me, Mary Beth. I'll say that. It
Good.
very very much so.
Good. I thrive on feedback, Nat, so I appreciate that.
Don't we all, Mary Beth?
Yeah. Um, I think one thing that always kind of stands out to me is it's very intentional, right? The steps are very intentional and are asking people to really think through the details and do that planning, because that really is, in my experience, it is what it takes in order to do something different than what you have been doing and to stick with it in a way that will have measurable results and an improvement. Yeah, exactly. Nat says it provides real and tangible feedback and measured results. Yeah, you're not just guessing, right? You're not guessing about what to improve. You're not conjecturing about the impact it had. You're going to know why you did something, what the result was, did it impact your goal or not, right? So I just think for many people, when they start to go through this and it becomes part of what they do, it's very rewarding. Even when you don't necessarily achieve your goal, you always learn something valuable. So anyway, that's my 2 cents about it. Okay. So let's talk about another change. So if we were to do another change, right? We did our staff recognition program. That's going great. People are loving it. We're going to keep our same aim. We're still trying to improve staff retention. We still have our same measure, which is now about 65% retention. Imagine we're going to do a second change. And that change is more flexible scheduling. So, going back to that slide about our 3 themes from our root cause analysis, people said that they needed more work-life balance and they needed to know how to handle challenges. I feel like we could pick either one, and people knowing how to handle difficult situations or challenges, that should come in a training program. So, that would be another opportunity to train and mentor people in that area. But say that the work-life balance, that was another main reason people were leaving. We want to offer more flexible scheduling. And so we're going to do another PDSA. We might need to gather some more information about that, about what that would look like, right? This is probably going to be a heavier lift, right? This really impacts people's availability, their preferences, the timing that people are available, shift changes. It's going to be a lot. Could be a lot. So just, I don't know, do y'all have ideas about how they would go about planning this? Planning something like more flexible scheduling? Okay, Daphne says hire more people. Interesting. Yes. So, what might that look like, right? Yeah, we want to offer more flexible schedules. Maybe that's part of hiring people. Maybe we want to be able to tell them, hey, we have flexible schedules. We have work-life balance. But also we're going to be maybe upfront with people, like upfront, we're going to need people to do night shifts. Yeah, people can fill in easier with more staff. Exactly. So maybe we're going to rethink our whole recruitment strategy, right? So maybe like how would we test out a new recruitment strategy, right? So we'd have to map that out. I don't have answers, but maybe we could try it for, that rule of 1. Could we try it for 1 month? Right? Or could we try a message like maybe we have social media, maybe we put a message out there like, hey, we're recruiting people, and here's all the benefits, and maybe we have some more benefits. So anyway, recruitment strategy. So we go through our plan. How are we going to test this out to see if it's going to give us the results we hope for? And let's imagine that, we're able to recruit more people, maybe expand because we expanded our benefits, or maybe we have good overtime pay. or maybe we have special nighttime pay. I don't know. But whatever we did, something about it we were happy with. And here's now our retention rate. So we've done this for a year. So at first we were recognizing people, we got to 65%, and now we have recruited some more people and made our scheduling more flexible. We're at 72%. Pretty good. So this is a gimme question. How would you describe this trend? Clearly, this trend is increasing. I would say it's highly likely our efforts are paying off. This was not by accident, right? So this is what we have done so far, right? Progressive PDSA cycles. We've done several about staff recognition. We've done another one about flexible scheduling, and we're seeing it pay off. I did want to ask a question here about what would happen if at the same time we decided to both do a recognition program and offer more flexible scheduling. I'm thinking from our QI perspective. Basically, that's two changes at once. Yes, so Nat, exactly. Nat says it's harder to discern which one had the most impact. Exactly. So it might be unpopular to wait and do a change later or to focus on one, but that's really the only way that you'll know, or the main way you'll know which one or whether either one of them is having the impact that you want it to. So if you did both, you know, your result might be entirely due to one or the other, but you won't know that. So it's really maybe challenging to do one thing at a time, but you know, that is ideally the way the model works. It's not always the way the real world works, though. You might have pressure to really improve this thing, be like, you have to do this, this, and this. If that is the case, then you really have to work hard on that hypothesis, right? What do you think is going to happen with each particular change, and measure each change individually? Because you don't want to keep doing something that actually is not having an impact, right? So don't let your data fool you about that. Okay. All right. So we have come to the end of the model for improvement. You know, sometimes there's a question, or I have the question like, okay, when can you stop doing this? Like, okay, we've improved staff retention. Can we stop now? Of course, the answer is yes, right? So that is the value of having your quality improvement committee looking at the data on an ongoing basis, understanding the progress that's been made, what's been implemented, and having that discussion about when do we end this quality improvement project. I would recommend that if you end an actual project, you still continue to monitor that data, right? Because if it goes back down again, you'll want to address that. But you don't have to work on this topic forever, right? Maybe you have one topic a year or two topics a year that you're working on. And yes, you don't have to work on it forever. Okay, so here is a question for you guys. Having reviewed all of this, do you see ways that you will use this in your work? This is just a pausing and sharing moment. I do have here are some ideas, you know, improvement areas that Some folks have worked on improving health and safety, improving access to services, staff training, customer satisfaction, staff turnover. I don't know if these would spark some ideas for you, but yeah, I would love it if y'all would share kind of how you might use this or who you might share it with. Nat says very directly with providers. Great. Yeah, and now I will tell you, I have those videos about how to do quality improvement. And also there is the new quality manual has a whole section about Plan, Do, Study, Act. It has this worksheet, of course. Daphne says, how about staff to provide hope? Oh, interesting. You want to maybe say more about that, Daphne? Like, how would you provide hope using this? Maybe hopeful that things can get better, that we can have bigger impact. Yeah, things will continue to change and we are working on it. Yep, exactly. I think it is a hopeful process. It's very optimistic. It helps people kind of focus on the positive and what's working well and find solutions. Okay, Nat's typing. All right, so yeah, we're coming to the part where I'm wrapping up. Daphne says it might prompt more problem solving too. Yes. Yeah, and people who maybe haven't felt like they've had a voice before or they've had ideas but not had a place to share them. Yeah, it would be really a good forum for them to get involved. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Hey, Mary Beth.
Yeah.
Um, One of your early slides, the QA versus QI slide,
Hmm.
um, that had a source. It had a link to your source,
Yes.
and I wrote it down and I typed it in, and it didn't work for me. I probably wrote it down incorrectly, but that's a question. That is, can you share that link again? And
Uh,
can you also, will these slides be available?
yes. Let me see if I can find it real quickly. It's from I think it's the University of Michigan, Michigan Office of Public Health Improvement. I think it's this. So it looks like you have to put your email and they'll like send you a link. Here, I'm gonna put that in the chat. Yes, I'm gonna send you all a copy of the slides and all of those handouts that I mentioned at the beginning. Yeah, and at the end of the slides, there's a list of resources. I do need to update this. Let's see. This is that link that is in here. Oh, okay. I guess that's not it. Probably go through this one, Nat, and put your email.
Okay.
It's pretty great. They might have updated it. That's why that link isn't working. I don't know. But here's a bunch of resources for you, of course, internal and external. And yeah, that's it. So I want to thank everybody for coming today and for playing the games that I have and interacting. And I did put the evaluation in the chat. So please take about, 5 minutes or less and fill that out. And yeah, go ahead and close it out. Yeah, thank you guys. And I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks, Nat. Yeah, it's slower this time than in the past, but it's going away. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.